Hello, I'm Dr. Agnes. I'm a family medicine physician, and welcome to Talk with Dr. Agnes show, where medicine meets humanity through real conversations on health, purpose, and lived experience. Joining me today is Dr. Ejemai Eboreime, an assistant professor of psychiatry at Dalhousie University, whose work focuses on improving mental health care for diverse communities. And before we go on a short break, I would like to take this moment to thank FT Dishes Restaurant for providing catering support for the crew of Talk with Dr. Agnes show. And we'll be right back. Okay, thank you, Dr. Ejemai, for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Agnes. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Okay, let's dive right in.
Cool.
Okay, so I want to know the person behind all the titles, behind the doctor, before the titles, the research, and leadership roles. Who is Dr. Ejemai, and what life experiences have shaped the way you see people and mental health?
Yeah, I would say, well, people always say that I am a man of many hearts, and these hearts have different colors.
Tell me more.
Yeah, but you have mentioned some of my, more professional hearts. Being physician and researcher, professor, and yeah. But the real me or behind these professional part is, I am one who loves to see equity, right? I love to see people, get better in whatever they do. Mm-hmm. I love to see people access the best services, be it health, be it whatever, education. And I want to see people I want to see the world a better place. But primarily, again, here, I think one important thing is I am an immigrant. And I am an immigrant with a family, right? Which is multi-generational immigrants, so to say, because my wife and I are primary immigrants. My kids are second generation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have the opportunity to experience the challenges that immigrants face in accessing health. And one of the key things actually is mental health. Mm-hmm. Coming to Canada in 2018, I found that it was challenging, really, to access the kind of care that was, fit for me and my family.
Cultural appropriate care.
Yeah, culturally appropriate care. Yeah, and that was what triggered my interest, particularly in immigrant mental health, and that's where I am today.
Good. So that's where you drew inspiration from.
Oh, yes.
And that shaped your career.
Indeed.
Today.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And was there, you kind of mentioned it, but was there a personal moment or a turning point that made you realize mental health would become such an important part of your life's work?
Well, I would say mental health really got to, I got, a bit interested in mental health while back at home in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And I think that was because I worked a whole lot in northern part of Nigeria. Okay. I did experience crisis, mm-hmm. Conflict, and I saw...
And tribalism.
Yeah, I saw that as well, yeah, perfectly. I saw people who had experienced the Boko Haram crisis, and all manner of stuff, and I found that there was a lot of humanitarian support to these people, not enough anyway, mm-hmm. but psychosocial health was absent, mm-hmm. right? I began thinking. Right? And then coming back to Canada, I also began to relate with other immigrants, people from different parts of the world. And I found that there's a significant number of people who came here as asylum seekers from countries who experiencing crisis as well, mm-hmm. like I had seen with the communities I worked with back in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And this made me see a significant gap. And I thought, okay, how can I, bridge this gap? So I think that's a turning point for me.
Okay. And as someone who has moved across countries, like cultures and systems, what has that journey taught you about identity, belonging, and resilience?
Yes. So first of all, as an African, and one who has traveled and lived actually in different African countries, and then here in the West, I find first of all that yeah, community is important,
Yeah.
primary, and for many immigrant communities, you find that you can't separate them from that cultural identity.
Yeah.
And you find that this builds that psychosocial resilience wherever they are. But when they move over here, there is a switch in identity. I want to...
What do you mean by switching identity? Tell me more.
Okay, that's what I want to explain. Yeah. So, in the Western culture, now, permit me to go a bit philosophical, right? Yeah, I'm a philosopher. Yeah. So, in the West, you have the idea of community is what we call the liberal individualistic community, in the sense that an individual chooses to be part of a community.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm first me, then I identify or choose to not identify with a community.
Okay.
But that's different from what you find in Africa and Asia and several parts of the world as well, where you have a more the system is more relational. So for me, for example, I am part of the community by birth.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice.
You don't have a choice. Yes.
Yeah, this is the culture you're born into, and you embrace it.
You embrace it.
And that's it.
Yes.
You don't have that choice to choose how you want to identify, which culture you want to identify with.
Yeah.
Okay, I get. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a single word for that commonly used, Ubuntu, which is the philosophy of I am because we are, and we are because I am. So that's the nature, the fact that in that relational community, you are not an individual. You're part, an integral part of it. So the community cannot be without you.
And you
cannot be,
be without the community.
Yes. So that identity itself is very important and shapes, your psychosocial perspective and resilience as well.
And how you present yourself to the world and how you relate to the world because of your identity, you're rooted in your culture and your beliefs, and that shapes how you show yourself to the world.
Absolutely.
Okay, and they always say that our quote unquote Nigerians were resilient people. We know they carry last.
Yeah, that's a cliche.
So tell us more about the experience you've had, all the challenges you've had to overcome to get to where you are today.
So, I don't know where to begin, from the beginning or the middle, right? But yeah, I'll start. Growing up in Nigeria, of course, we have that, like I mentioned, the relational stuff. Yeah, and growing up, community shapes exactly who you are, and that was reflected in a whole lot of, who I am today, even becoming a physician, right? Now, I began within Nigeria to relate with different cultures. I traveled across, and I began to realize that there's a whole lot of gaps, right? In my understanding, even of my own country. I moved to the north, and I do recall that I got bored with clinical practice as a primary care physician, and I thought, how can I switch to because attending to individuals, I found that I wasn't really making the kind of impact that I would love to make.
You were not finding fulfillment in
I
your
wasn't finding
current
fulfillment,
role as a
and
primary care
yeah, and
physician.
I thought I wasn't really, besides fulfillment is primary, yes, but I also wasn't. I didn't feel like I was reaching the needs of
the impact,
the impact, yeah,
the maximum
yes,
impact.
yes.
Okay.
So and that's why I began to switch into the more community perspective to care.
Okay.
Yes, and it was a huge switch and very challenging on its own. Also working among conflict population, different paradigms and stuff like that. Yeah, and yeah. Thereafter, I thought, okay, yeah, let me. I want to get a bit more of skill in getting things done, and I came across a field called implementation science, and I went to the PhD. In South Africa because I realized that there was a gap between what we do and the impact. And it was quite challenging because a new paradigm for me. And yeah, I developed that.
That's good. We can retake. That's fine. They will cut it out.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So what I can draw from what you're saying is that one is recognizing the need and the gap of in terms of your career, whatever you want to do. The main thing is to start and find out what I need to do to empower myself so that I can achieve what I want to do. If it means learning new skills, moving from A to B, whatever you needed to do to achieve that goal, you will put all 100%. You put everything you have in order to make that work.
Absolutely.
So goal setting, finding out what you want to do, not being afraid to take that step, and overcoming the challenges as you go.
Yeah, and continuous evolution, right? Because life changes and you need to adapt to these. And
adaptation.
Yeah.
That's one of the skills of resilience is adaptation, flexibility, because environment will not remain the same. This is not the environment you were born into. And then you have to adapt. And once the problem is that adaptability, if one is not fluid or flexible or adaptable, then if we are rigid in our perspective, rigid in our growth, there's no, how do we now build, what would we say, the building blocks of resilience are all those challenges that you overcome as you go on in life, whether it's career, personal life, or what have you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I should even chip in a bit of my experience when I came in Canada. So I got in here, there's what's called the healthy immigrant syndrome, right? So an immigrant comes into a new country, right? You find that the mental health is a lot better than the average resident of that country.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
The reason is this. There's a lot of high expectation. You're moving to an exciting new adventure and all that. But within a year, you find that things are not as you expected, right? You come in and you experience, of course, like here in Canada, I did experience racism. I experienced challenges with adapting to the individualistic system. I experienced a lot of social isolation. So a lot of that, and that itself impacted on my psychosocial health, right? I've never been one to be depressed. I didn't have depression anyway, but I had always been this exciting kind of person. But for the first time, I found that I wasn't too happy. Yeah.
And how did you overcome that?
Well, it took a lot, right? First of all, was identifying a community.
Good.
Right.
Community belonging.
Yeah, community belonging.
It's just for people like watching at home and the audience, and they want to draw that inspiration from how you overcame those challenges.
Yeah.
So the first thing you've said is community engagement and integrating yourself to the community that you identify with.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I think that's the primary thing. But the second step I took was a bit of switch, right, in terms of career. I came in. More in, so my first professional association as a postdoctoral fellow at the time was dealing with was internal medicine, right? But then I switched then to psychiatry because I thought that being in that environment, I'm going to not only learn how to support people who are experiencing the kind of things that I did experience, but also I would also find help for myself.
That's good. So basically, from your lived experience, from your immigrant experience and journey, you found that the need, so the way you're impacting the society and impacting patient care is based off your lived experience, and that inspired you to inspire the career change from internal medicine to mental health.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And let's talking more about that, because many immigrants here, like you said, arrive, with hope. But how about the switch side? There's also stress, grief, and pressure. What are some of the hidden mental health burdens that immigrants often carry silently?
So again, I'll switch to my personal experience, right? So, I mean, I came in when I came to Canada. It was myself and my pregnant wife, right? The first thing was, having this idea that you'll get into Canada and within a short while you're going to get a good job that you desire, and life is going to be
awesome.
Yeah. Now, a few months down the line, I realized that wasn't going to be. So, good thing was I came prepared, right? Unlike many other immigrants, but I was 10 months without a job.
Right? And how did you survive that financially?
So that's why I said I was a whole lot prepared, and I also had lots of my international consultancies going on.
Okay.
That was very helpful, but not everyone has that privilege, right? I stuck to exactly what I wanted to do. I said I would do this or nothing else. Yeah. But that has its own psychological implications. A whole lot of stress, you have kids to take care of, and then ever increasing prices of goods and baby food. My son refused to suck the breast. He said he wanted to take inside. I know what the cost is. Yeah, so you have all those challenges, right? Then you also find that like I said initially, you don't have a community to guide you. You feel alone. That's social isolation. That alone affects a whole lot of the sexual health of immigrants.
Yeah.
Thankfully for me, within a while, I was able to get a community that offered quite that support and all that. But yeah, as an immigrant, it never really ends. Yeah, it never really ends. But yeah, that's the journey.
Talking about that, so there's this research I read about the consistent identifiable risk factor for mental health in Black populations in Canada is daily racial discrimination, and it remains the strongest predictable risk factor for, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and stress. But when we talk about mental health in Black communities, what are some realities that are often overlooked or misunderstood?
Mental health in Black communities.
Yes.
First of all, I want to debunk a misnomer. Often we talk about Black mental health or Black communities, right? Yes, there is a Black community, but I think that's a box created that is created by the liberal individualistic paradigm, right? Because essentially in reality, there's no single Black community. Because I am an Edo person, for example, from Nigeria. My culture is different from yours. And so you have the Caribbean community as well.
You have African Nova Scotian.
This African Nova Scotian communities. These are different communities, different identities, different, And when people talk about Black health, I think it's reductionist, and it doesn't do justice to mental health service delivery from my own research, right? Because you can't get culturally adapted care when you think that people
Are all the
are
same
all the same based on their race.
based on their color.
Yeah, based on color, right? So we need to do more to understand cultural
The
diversity.
cultural
Yeah,
diversity.
yeah.
Okay. And Black men in particular are often expected to stay strong, especially in our community, Nigerian community, for example, be a man, men don't cry, keep going and not talk about emotional pain. What effect does that have on mental health?
Yeah. So I never cried.
Why? Why? Because
Because I'm culturally trained not to cry. Yeah, and you see, everyone expects that, right? I mean, even my wife expects that. Yeah, because we're
really?
trained. Yeah. So there's that superhero, Superman mentality, which has two kinds of effect generally. There is the positive part of it, where it builds some bit of not a bit, it builds quite some psychosocial resilience, because you keep telling yourself that self auto suggestion, right? That okay, yeah, I'm a black
I'm
man,
a man.
I'm a man. I have to do this, I have to do that. But then again, on the flip side, it has been responsible for beyond that threshold, it becomes really deleterious. And very much so, because you see, particularly, like, again, I'll go back to the two kinds of communities, right? Living for living a culture that is relational to an individualistic culture, you find that that philosophy does not operate well with the individualistic society. And when the breakdown comes, I've seen it become extreme in several Black African men. Yeah. So it is a major factor, and I think it calls for a paradigm shift, paradigm adaptation. Yeah. For the Black men, Black community, male. Yeah.
And how do stigma, masculinity, race, and lived experience come together to shape whether someone asks for help or stays silent?
So I want to talk about, maybe I should begin to talk about one of my major research programs, which is called Embrace. We're exploring multi-dimensional barriers and facilitators to accessing mental health among minority groups. And it's been very much revealing, right, in this direction. Yes, indeed, there's always been this conversation over the years about how minority groups, immigrants, Black community, African diaspora communities, indigenous communities have challenges in getting appropriate care.
Culturally
Yeah,
responsive care.
yeah. But what the question that has not been asked often has been about why the system has not been able to meet the needs despite this knowledge. And it boils down on a whole lot of factors that you have mentioned. Racism. And racism is not always overt, and it's not always intentional. When it is systemic, it goes beyond being deliberate to being how the system operates to exclude minority groups, right? So I'll give you an example. In our study, we began to look at healthcare providers and policymakers to find out why that gap, right? And one of the things interesting we found was, for example, there are some doctors who said, I don't have the capacity to provide transcultural care.
Really?
Yeah. And one wonders, in a diverse community like we have in Canada and in Nova Scotia, why would at this time a physician not even have the self-efficacy? Now, the physician is not saying, look, I don't like black people or I don't like indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
They say, I don't have the capacity. So there is a systemic gap even in training,
Mm-hmm.
right, of healthcare providers.
I guess that's what we're trying to do, actually. Like we're walking down, where, you know, they are quite advanced in terms of culturally appropriate training to increase the capacity of, you know, knowledge and culture that we integrate in practicing healthcare. And I don't know from your research, from the Embrace research you're doing, whether there's room for, you know, highlighting this gap and how, you know, systemically, you know, we in our throughout our training, they can integrate actually from starting from medical students, which they're doing, because I do teach. A part of my job is to teach medical students on, you know, I'm a social accountability lead as well. So this is what we're starting to teach the medical students at Dow about culturally appropriate and responsive care because of the diversity, you know, in the population and those needs. We have to tailor to their needs in order to, in view of health equity and fairer access to healthcare. So you've mentioned that. Was there any other like indicators or you know, factors that your research has picked up on?
Yeah, I think that's a key factor essentially. And speaking again to the capacity you're talking about, there is a difference between um, enlightenment, education, and training, right? And oftentimes we mix these things up. I have been part of and attended several courses relating to this. And oftentimes, what this does is to attempt to create awareness, knowledge, right? But knowledge is not practice. And I don't have all the answers, right? But you see, training includes practice.
Yeah.
Now, when
Implementation.
yes. So when you, I mean, what I would, I don't know the extent to which this is in the medical curriculum, but when practical exposure to transcultural care becomes ingrained in routine capacity building, that would go a long way.
Of course. So it's not just the awareness, it's education and training.
Yes.
So we can raise awareness and then that's where it stops. But then we have to go further,
Yeah.
you know, and increase our knowledge
Yeah.
around this. And also, how do we implement it consistently?
Consistently, yeah.
Okay, got you. All right. And how do we move forward from good research? We've kind of talked about it. And how do we move forward from good research and good intentions to support that people can truly access, they can trust and use?
Yeah. So I want to give this quote by someone I respect a whole lot. He's called Dr. Ejemai.
Yep.
He said in his work in 2018, we had done so much work and the recognition, but solved nobody's problem. Yeah. Now, what that means is essentially that, you see, we've been doing a whole lot of work and making lots of, you know, publicity about a whole lot of the work that is being done to bridge gaps, right? And you have people winning awards in, you know, diversity, inclusion, and equity. Yeah. But in reality, you find that the gap is getting wider and wider, right? And that's because there is no implementation itself requires a different kind of capacity. I have a PhD in implementation science, so I know that implementation is a different thing on its own, right? Yeah. So there is need for it's going to take a long time. I mean, from my field, implementation science, I do know that it takes even for clinical trials, it takes the average of 17 years for 14% of evidence to get translated into routine practice, right? Now, how much more social kinds of things like racism and diversity within health. Yeah, it's going to take a whole lot of things, including particularly social orientation within society. I would, a few years ago, a podcast like this, someone reached out to me. He wanted to invite me, and he's from BC. And he told me something which was very interesting. He said he just realized 2 years ago, from that time, that he had been a racist all his life. And he never knew until the George Floyd issue. And why was that? He said, all through his life, as a white person, white kid, the media had given him an impression of black people. And his whole understanding of who black people are was shaped by this. And he thought that was the reality. But following that George Floyd issue, he began to research more and found that the media was wrong, largely, about this impression. So you find out for that to be change, it's holistic. It's not just health system alone. It has to go to society reorientation, which includes deliberate efforts to reorientate people about diversity. The fact that humans are humans irrespective of where they come from, right? And that will begin to, and it has to be intentional, very, very intentional. So it's a big ball game. It's not something that's going to, be done in 5 years or 10 years, but I think we can start from somewhere. Yeah.
Humans are humans, irrespective of where they come from. On that note, we'll take a short break. And before that, we want to thank again FT Dishes Restaurant for providing catering support for the crew of Talk with Dr. Agnes show. And we'll be right back. Come back. Let's do this quick round of myths or facts on mental health. I will read a statement and you tell us whether it's a myth or fact and why. All right? You ready?
Cool.
Okay. Mental health problems are a sign of personal weakness.
Not at all.
Is that a myth or a fact?
It's a myth.
Good.
It's a myth. And yeah, some of the strongest people I know have mental health problems, challenges, right? Let's even begin with someone like Elon Musk or Bill Gates. They are said to be autistic. Yes. So that's a myth.
Okay. You can look fine on the outside and still be struggling mentally.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Is that a myth or fact?
It's a fact.
Okay. Therapy is only for people with severe mental illness.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I mean, even people who do not have mental illness at all sometimes need therapy. I mean, even talking with you on this show is therapy for me.
Social therapy.
Social therapy.
Depression is just sadness, and people can simply snap out of it.
No, depression is a spectrum. Now there is depression, and there's also depressive disorders. They are two different things, right? None of which is sadness, because sometimes people are depressed and they look happy. They can laugh and express symptomatic expressions that look joyful, but they're actually depressed. Yeah.
I know there was someone I'm not sure if I read it in the paper somewhere or the news, that this individual was actually socializing a day before he committed suicide. As in, people were in shock. Like, he was just with me at the party. He looked like he was having fun. And then the next day he was on social media. So yeah, I agree with you that people can look fine on the outside and still be struggling mentally. Men should stay silent about their emotions and be strong. We've kind of talked about that.
Yeah. So, men should not stay silent about their emotions. I mean, let me just say this. There are only 3 absolute strong men I have ever known in my life. One is Thor. The other is Samson. And the third is Superman. Now, now, Thor without his hammer is nothing. Samson had Delilah, and Superman has kryptonite, right? So, so everyone has something that weakens them, and you don't have to always pretend. I mean, Superman sought the help of what's her name, the girlfriend,
Someone from the
Lois
audience.
Lane. Lois Lane. yeah. So everyone needs some form of support.
Okay. Culture and community can shape how people experience mental health.
Yes, it does, and not only shape how they experience mental health, also shapes how they express mental health challenges, right? I'll give this little example as well. While doing my internship as a physician, obstetrics posting in National Hospital Abuja, I saw something that was interesting. For the first time, I saw Fulani women giving birth, and at the peak of labor, there is no noise.
Yes.
They're just right.
Silent birth.
Silent, right? Unlike some other cultures where you find them very expressive. For example, Yoruba women are very, very expressive, right? So you would assume, you would believe that these Fulani women are not feeling pain at all, but they are in intense labor pains, right? So culture shapes expression of symptomatic expression or expression of generally
of emotions.
Of emotions,
Okay. Medication is the only effective treatment for mental health conditions.
At all, it's a myth.
Yeah.
It's a myth. The most effective treatments are non-pharmacological, right? And we get that all the time from who we interact with, who we talk with, and also seeking the help of specialist therapists is also very helpful. And that's something about African communities, particularly migrant communities. We don't seem to appreciate the work of therapists.
Yeah.
We think it's not,
that's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time, right? But it is very important. And I think we also need more therapists from our community. Maybe that would improve trust and understanding of our culture.
And improve access.
Improve access as well.
And also reduce stigma.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. It's not that medications are not effective. Medications are effective.
Oh, they are.
It's just
they
that
are effective.
It's not the only effective treatment for mental health conditions. Children and teenagers can also experience serious mental health challenges. Myth or fact?
It is fact. And I would also say this, that the majority of mental health conditions begin at teenage
years.
Yeah,
because a teenager.
Yeah, they find optimum expression perhaps. Many get diagnosed when they're elderly, but but at that young age, that's when lots begin to have those, and that's why there's currently a whole lot of research and emphasis on early mental health programs, early psychosis detection, and there are lots of programs with that. So when we see our kids acting in some certain ways, there's a bit of change. It's not always stubbornness. You think it's this teenage stubbornness or something. No, look deeply to see. That child may be having some mental health challenges, so we need to be sensitive.
And what are the risk factors for our teenagers experiencing this increase in mental health problems in our community?
Yeah. So there are several risk factors, right? But you find that first of all, for immigrant communities, the same issues that adults face, right? It's more intense for kids. Acculturation, racism. Lots of them don't know how to handle these traumatic events.
Emotional
Yes.
regulation.
Yeah, emotional regulation. And I think something I must chip in here is when it comes to access to care, studies have shown that majority of Black kids access mental health for the first time through the criminal justice system, unlike white kids, right? When you have it is something. So when they experience symptoms, it is always associated with criminality, and then they get those records, and before they get the care they need. I mean, there was a situation, I don't know if you heard about that, but that was just a few years ago, I think in Manitoba. These are a Nigerian student who was expressing some bit of psychotic breakdown, and his friends called 911 for help, right? The cops showed up. Now, this guy was with a knife, right? And the friends called so that he could get medical care. And rather than healthcare coming, the cops came in. And when they saw him aggressive, rather than seeing how they can get him to seek care, he was shot dead. So that's a challenge we have in the community. So that's why there's need for holistic reorientation, right, about Black healthcare.
Feeling a sense of belonging can protect mental well-being. Myth or fact?
Facts.
Okay, as we move on now to the final segment, if there is one thing you want our audience to remember from this conversation, what would it be?
That would be this. Avoid the Superman syndrome.
Okay, number one.
Yeah. You can't do it on your own. When you have challenges, learn to seek help. First, there is personal help, right? You could, if you're feeling, you could access some help materials and all that, but that's at that level. But second, there is help from the system, right? Learn to seek help from the system and from family as well, family and friends.
Trusted.
Trusted, exactly. And then from the system as well, there's a whole lot of that. And, despite the fact that we say that there is a whole lot of cultural adaptation issues with care, things are improving.
Yeah.
They're improving a whole lot. In psychiatry, for example, I know that there is, my department has opened a transcultural care clinic in Dartmouth.
Is that Brent Young?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's for indigenous.
Yes.
I actually referred a patient.
Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've also started what's called the Rapid Access Stabilization Program. Before now, it took months to see a psychiatrist, but with the Rapid Access Stabilization Program, one could get emergency psychiatric care 24 hours, right? Through referral, right? For acute stabilization, right?
Acute stabilization.
Yeah.
Is that in the, sorry, this is me learning myself. Is that in the EMR that we use? Or we have to do a standard referral?
I know it's a referral.
Like a template, do we have it? Because Rapid Access Stabilization Program.
Yes. Yeah, I would share.
Oh, we have it. That's RASP.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the program also incorporates supportive text messaging program, mm-hmm. which also helps in long-term sustainability, right? And also reduces that stigma issue, right? But you get a whole lot of support through that as well.
Okay. And what would a mentally healthier, more connected, more compassionate community look like to you?
El Dorado. Yeah. So I think it's a wild goose chase to look for that kind of community because it has not existed in the millions of years or thousands of years, depending on that humanity has existed, right? But what we can do is to optimize what we have. It begins with us as individuals, right? Um, if I am more sensitive to the psychosocial health of my neighbor, right, I'm contributing to improving society. We will never get to El Dorado. I don't think we will ever get there. But we can get as close as possible as we can. Yeah, so let's build a more mental health conscious society, a more empathic society, and more supportive society. And it begins with you and I.
What is your final word for immigrants, Black families, and anyone trying to hold on to hope while carrying so much?
Hope is everything, right? Never lose hope, right? And like I said, there are pressures, right? But there is support. There is support. There is community support. There is systemic support. Yeah, always seek support. Have the mind and understanding that you're not alone. We're all in it together. And in the spirit of Ubuntu, like I said, I am because we are, and we are because I am.
I love that. I am because we are, and we are because I am. On that note, we'll take a short break. Thank you again to FT Dishes for your catering support, for supporting the custom crew of Talk with Dr. Agnes show, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to take questions from the audience. And do we have any questions for Dr. Ejemai?
Thank you, Dr. Ejemai, for the talk. It's been enlightening and encouraging all together, and I can see myself and also appreciate all that you've said. But I wanted to find out your thoughts about, and I appreciate the fact that we have this Ubuntu mentality as Africans and as Black people. But I also want to find out, what do you think do you think there are advantages of maximizing the communal way of living and the individual way of living? Because I feel that everything has an advantage and everything has a disadvantage. So what would you encourage immigrants, right, on harnessing the advantage of the communal life as newcomers, and particularly newcomers from Africa and newcomers that have this cultural perspective of being together? And what do you think are those advantages that we could also take from these individualistic lifestyles that we see here, so that we have a balance of both of these experiences and actually make ourselves better?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's more of a sociological question than a psychiatric one, but it is very important. And I want to say this because even part of one kind of study I'm doing currently, it is reductionist actually to say that to split the world into those two paradigms at an extreme, to say that the Western culture is totally individualistic or that the African culture is totally relational, right? There are individualistic cultures in Africa, and there are relational cultures in the West as well. And importantly is that even the West itself did have a strong relational culture previously and has evolved into what it is today, right? And what that tells us is that culture and paradigms evolve, right? So you will find that in the next 100 years, it will the world will look a whole lot different, right, than it is today. Now, that being said, what does that mean for an immigrant? It means that when when you're moving, you are evolving as well, right? You have the advantage of you have the opportunity to take advantage of both cultural systems, right? You don't you don't come in, right, to with that expectation that you're going to see Canada the way it was back home, right? You need to integrate, right? But that also doesn't mean that you shouldn't take advantage of your community, right? Um, and the paradigm with which you're used to, because a switch, right, can also have implications for your psychosocial health. A sudden switch, right? So the world is evolving, and you evolve as well, and see how you can maximize that.
I mean, in terms of research, there's always one of the ways to reduce your risk of developing dementia is social connection. It's actually evidence-based. So in however way that you identify with, and you are staying true to yourself, and you're socializing in your community, not only there are advantages to your physical health and your mental health. So I would say to be intentional about integrating and socializing within the space that you're comfortable with. And that's my little, what we say, my
2 cents.
2 cents. That's it. Any other question?
Thank you for sharing your experience as a newcomer when you were a newcomer.
Okay.
It was kind of enlightening because of the expectations that comes and the unusual big future expectations that once you land here, everything is going to be okay. So my question is there any advice that you would give to newcomers that still have the healthy newcomer syndrome, that not yet drifted, so that it will help them navigate without kind of slipping and entering that phase of should I say difficulty or depression. Yeah, and feeling on the low, that to help them navigate successfully.
Thank you.
Yeah. In terms of, I don't know if you're asking whether I have the cure for the healthy immigrant syndrome. I don't. Yeah, it is a research observation, and I think it can't change because it's the nature of humans, right? I mean, you're moving means you have high expectations. I mean, it's like changing jobs as well. You have high expectations of that job, and with time you adapt, right? So it is, and that adaptation is not wrong. Right? It's not wrong.
And not necessarily negative.
It's not negative, exactly. It's not negative. That's negative. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah, it's not negative, right? It is just a sociological integration process, and I think it is important for immigrants to be aware of it. But whether they're aware of it or not, they will experience it, right? What's more important is for newcomers to be aware of what help is available within the system they're coming into. Good thing is that there's a lot of support. Canada has done this fantastic work of having lots of immigrant support programs everywhere, and we encourage immigrants to take advantage of them. They're very, very helpful in every respect, right? And it would help you integrate very well into the society.
Hi. With knowing what mental health can be for those who work within healthcare settings and how heavy it can be, do you have any piece of advice that relates to what can be done on a daily basis in an easy fashion to support one's own mental health?
Yeah. a few days ago, 2 days ago, I was invited to an event, and I went there. I did what I was supposed to do, and when I left, my colleague who had invited me sent me a message and said, "Hope you're okay." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then she says, "No, because you looked stressed when you came. You're not the usual you." And then, yeah, it occurred to me that yes, I had been going through a whole lot of pressure in the past few weeks, right? But I did not know that it was obvious, right? Um, and then what I did was to go to the gym, right? And when I went to the gym, I felt a whole lot better. So the point is, yeah, there are lots of ways you can help yourself, your sexual health, and there is no single one prescription for that. It could be like for me, going to the gym and getting better psychologically. For some, it could be reading books. So sometimes for example, one of the things I love so much is new age music, particularly by Yanni. So we all have what helps each and every one of us, right? And yeah, find out what's good for you, what makes you excited. I mean, do you want to go to the club? Do you want to
Positive distraction techniques and
yes,
self-help
exactly.
guides.
Yeah, those will help you.
It's interesting to me because obviously we're talking psychologically, the psychological realm largely, and my understanding that Africa is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the most diverse continent on the planet. So, and to me, diversity just means difference. There's lots of differences. So, I'm not sure that I have a question, but I'm pondering on the notions that the observations that you've shared about reduction, how, in the West is relational as much as, and when we're talking about the West, we're also talking about indigenous people who are not, so absolutely the West is relational. And in Africa is some individualistic as well as relational at the same time. But I'm wondering, like politically, like the idea of like being Pan-African, for example. And again, it may be outside of the scope that we're talking about, and that's fine. But I am wondering sort of like, how do you reconcile or think about like the politics of Africanness or blackness versus sort of the cultural diversity of what it means to sort of, what it means to exist within a culture that is so diverse. And diversity is a power and a strength, I think. I mean, that's, again, I'm not a doctor, but, I think when there is homogeneity, that weakens us as an organism, and diversity is a strength. So there's a lot of things I'm putting out there. I'm not sure, the main thing for me is about like the political idea of unity and how that kind of, because I get what you're saying too about the reductionist nature of that paradigm, and how I always draw the distinction between unity and uniformity. There's a difference. So if you can make sense of that mess, I would really appreciate your thoughts, because there's quite a few things.
Yeah, if I got the question right, I'm not sure. Yeah, but about the implications of pan. I'm not sure I got the question. So
the politics. So what it is like, because I agree with you. You were talking about like reducing the reductionist nature of, like, I guess, a cultural position where we kind of say we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So culturally that might not make sense, but I'm saying politically, obviously it makes sense because you have Pan-African movement, right? So I'm wondering how you reconcile those two things, or do you reconcile those two things in your sort of, in your paradigm, in your ideology, or your way of seeing the world?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, now this is very important because that's where you now talk about the distinction between what is and what is feasible, right? Now, what I mean by that? The world is a very diverse place.
Or maybe what is and the idea of what is.
Yeah, well, I use the word feasible in terms of, because I was thinking in terms of interventions,
Okay.
right? Yeah, and you're right, actually, but so we are very, very diverse globally, right? And we try as much as in trying to provide solutions to all manner of human challenges, right? I work a lot in the humanitarian space, so I know this. The goal is often to reach the individual, right? To help people as much as you can within that diverseness, right? But in reality, you can't. It's not feasible to say, okay, I want to provide care to an Igbo-centered care, or to an Edo-centered care, or to a Zulu-centered care. It's not feasible, right? So you find that in terms of intervention politically, you see that whole thing about looking at Black people as one may have some bit of help within what is feasible to support, right? And in reality, there is some, I mean, even though we are different, there is some form of similarity in terms of when we all, I mean, most of us have left the relational settings and moved to the more individualistic settings. So we all experience similar challenges.
Like shared experience.
Shared experiences, right? We're immigrants. When it comes to issues like social issues like racism and all that, these are common experiences. So within that perspective, right? The reductionist approach might be more feasible in addressing certain common challenges with healthcare access. Yeah, but in terms of holistic care, I mean, even I did give the example about the Fulani and the Yoruba and other people in terms of obstetric care and their symptoms, their
That's in
expressions of,
Nigeria.
I found for the first time, even though I'm Nigerian, trained as a doctor in Nigeria, I went to the north and found that it was different within the same country.
The birthing experience is different,
It's different.
according to your tribe, your culture.
Yes. Yet one would assume that as a Nigerian doctor, if for example in Canada practicing and then you give me a Nigerian patient, you would expect that I have all the answers to their problems, right? But you see, in reality, it's not that way. But we can do the best that we can within the space that we have.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. On that note, thank you so much, Dr. Ejemai, for coming and joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Agnes.
Much appreciated. And I'm sure in the future you'll be back.
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to come back.
Thank you.
All right.
Hold on. Thank you for joining us today on Talk with Dr. Agnes. If this conversation connected with you, please comment, like, and share this video with someone you care about. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Talk with Dr. Agnes. Coming up next on our show, the visionary Dr. Anne Divine will be here on the 23rd of May, and you wouldn't want to miss that. Reserve your complimentary seats by clicking on the link across all my social media platforms. Registration is required, and until then, take care of yourself and each other, and I'll see you soon.